the beginning of my career, about 5 years ago, I was dispatched out to a call in reference to a domestic dispute, and she happened to be the manager. She was the foundation in someone else's life to help them get the help that they needed to get out of a bad situation.
June 23rd, 2026. An ordinary Tuesday morning in Columbus, Georgia. The sun rose over Victory Drive like it had a million times before. Customers trickled into the local Dollar General, people grabbing coffee, household essentials, the mundane supplies of everyday life. Inside that store, behind the front counter, stood a woman who had built her life around service. Alexis Hill, 44 years old, mother of 3, grandmother of 2, store manager. The kind of woman who showed up early, stayed late, and knew her regulars by name. She had no idea that within minutes she would become the victim of one of the most senseless, cold-blooded murders ever captured on surveillance video. The killer, a man who had been out of prison for exactly 30 days. The motive, a package of hamburger buns. Total cost, $1.58. What happened inside that store that morning would shock the nation, expose the dangers faced by retail workers every single day, and end in a hail of gunfire that left a police officer wounded, a K9 fighting for his life, and a killer dead in a parking lot. This is the story of Alexis Hill. This is Crime Autopsy. Before we talk about how she died, we need to understand who she was. Alexis Monique Hill was born to be a caregiver. Those who knew her describe a woman whose kindness wasn't performative, it was instinctive. She was the person you called when things fell apart, the one who showed up, the one who listened. She can't be replaced, her brother Jonathan would later say, his voice cracking with grief. It's a loss that I'm going to have to deal with, and the family is going to have to deal with. Alexis was a mother to 3 sons, a grandmother to 2 grandchildren who will now grow up without her hugs, without her wisdom, without the sound of her voice. She was a sister, a friend, a pillar of her community. She worked as the manager of the Dollar General store at the intersection of Victory Drive and Marathon Drive in Columbus. It wasn't glamorous work. It was retail. Long hours, demanding customers, endless responsibilities. But Alexis didn't just work there. She owned that store. She knew her employees. She protected them. One Columbus police officer, who knew her personally, recalled meeting Alexis during a domestic violence call involving one of her workers. That's who she was. Someone who stood up for her people, even when it wasn't her fight. Her brother Jonathan described her as someone you could always count on, a woman whose kindness touched countless lives. On a GoFundMe page he set up to cover her memorial and burial expenses, he wrote, "Our family is devastated. Alexis touched many lives with her kindness, generosity, and spirit. She was a hard-working woman who loved her job. She showed up every day, punched in, and gave everything she had to serve her community. And on June 23rd, 2026, that dedication cost her everything. Tuesday morning, around 10 a.m. The Dollar General on Victory Drive was like any other day. Customers came and went, shelves needed stocking, the register needed balancing. Alexis Hill stood behind the front counter, doing what she'd done 1,000 times before, ringing up customers, making change, offering that warm smile that regulars had come to expect. Then he walked in. Jerome Marquis Willis, 33 years old. To anyone watching, he looked like just another customer, just another face in the line, just another person buying groceries. He approached the counter with a package of hamburger buns. The total came to $1.58. Willis reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 crumpled $1 bills. He handed them to Alexis. This was the moment that would seal her fate, the moment that surveillance cameras would capture in chilling, unforgiving detail. Alexis Hill did what any cashier would do. She took the crumpled bills. She began straightening them out, flattening the creases so they'd feed properly into the register. It was such an ordinary action, Such a mundane, human thing to do. And while her hands were occupied with those $2, while her attention was focused on doing her job correctly, Jerome Willis stepped to the side. He pulled out a handgun. And he shot Alexis Hill in the head. No argument, no warning, no struggle, just a man, a gun, and a woman doing her job. Muskogee County Coroner Buddy Bryan would later describe what the surveillance footage showed. "We got it on video," he said, "and it's just a cold-blooded murder." Cold-blooded. That's the word that kept coming up, because that's exactly what it was. Alexis Hill collapsed behind the counter. She was pronounced dead at the scene at 10:45 a.m. She never saw it coming. She never had a chance to defend herself. She never got to say goodbye to her 3 sons, her 2 grandchildren, her brother Jonathan, the family that adored her. In an instant, a mother was gone, a grandmother was gone, a sister was gone, all over hamburger buns, all over $1.58. To understand this crime, we have to understand the man who committed it. Jerome Marquis Willis was no stranger to violence. His criminal history stretched all the way back to 2007. As a juvenile that year, he was convicted of robbery in Muskogee County. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison, with 10 years to serve. But prison didn't reform him. It didn't stop him. In 2023 and 2024, Willis was charged and convicted of terroristic threats, again in Muskogee County. He served 2 years for those convictions and was released from Dooley State Prison on May 21, 2026. That's right, May 21, 2026, 30 days before he walked into that Dollar General. 30 days before he murdered Alexis Hill. The system had given him another chance. The system had released him back into society. And within 1 month, he had taken a life that mattered, a life that was loved, a life that can never be replaced. There was no connection between Willis and Hill, no prior relationship, no grudge, no dispute. She was simply there. She was simply in his path. She was simply doing her job. And for that, she died. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation would later confirm that investigators had not identified any motive for the shooting. None. Zero. Just senseless, random, incomprehensible violence. A man with a history of robbery and terroristic threats, free for 30 days, walked into a store and executed a woman who had never wronged him. After the shooting, Jerome Willis fled. He ran from the Dollar General store, leaving Alexis Hill's body behind on the floor. He disappeared into the streets of Columbus, a killer on the loose, armed and dangerous. But he wouldn't stay free for long. Around 11:40 a.m., roughly 2.5 hours after the murder, Columbus police officers located Willis in a parking lot in the 3800 block of Baker Plaza Drive. The location is significant. It was approximately 1.2 miles from the Dollar General where Alexis Hill had been murdered. And here's something that makes this even more chilling. The parking lot was adjacent to the former Muskogee Elementary School building. Students and staff were inside that building at the time. The building now houses a robotics program and a family resource center. Children were nearby when this confrontation unfolded. None were injured, thank God. Police gave Willis verbal commands. They told him to surrender. They told him to put his hands up. He did not comply. Officers released a K-9 officer to apprehend the suspect. That K-9's name was Havoc. Havoc was a police dog, trained, loyal, brave. He did exactly what he was trained to do. He went after the suspect. And Willis responded the same way he'd responded to Alexis Hill. He pulled out a gun. He shot toward the K-9 officer. He shot at the police officers. A Columbus police officer was struck. He would later be treated for non-life-threatening injuries and released. But Havoc took the brunt of it. The K-9 was hit multiple times. He sustained serious injuries. In response, police officers fired several shots toward Willis. They hit him multiple times. Jerome Marquis Willis was pronounced dead on the scene. The man who had taken Alexis Hill's life over a $1.58 purchase was now dead himself, killed in a hail of bullets less than 3 hours after he'd committed murder. In the midst of this tragedy, there were heroes. Let's talk about Havoc. This K9 officer took bullets meant for human officers. He charged into danger without hesitation. He did what he was trained to do, and in doing so, he likely saved lives. Havoc underwent leg surgery at the Auburn Veterinary Hospital on Wednesday. The surgery went better than expected. He was not allowed visitors at first, but his handler, CPL Brent Wilson, was finally reunited with him on Thursday. The Columbus Police Department shared the good news. Havoc made it through surgery, and it went better than expected. He still has some recovery to do, but he's one tough K9. On Saturday, Havoc was discharged from the Bailey Small Animal Teaching Hospital at Auburn University. He even got a police escort as he left. CPD later said, without question, his actions helped protect the officers beside him. Havoc is a hero, plain and simple, and the wounded officer, the one who was shot during the confrontation, was treated and released. He's recovering, taking things day by day. But heroes aren't just found in law enforcement. Think about Alexis Hill herself. She showed up to work every day. She served her community. She protected her employees. She raised 3 sons. She loved 2 grandchildren. She was the kind of person who made the world better just by being in it. That's heroism too. The quiet kind. The everyday kind. The kind that doesn't make headlines until it's suddenly, tragically gone. In the days following the murder, the community of Columbus came together. The Victory Drive Dollar General store where Alexis was killed remained closed. It took Dollar General more than 24 hours to issue a statement. When they finally did, it read, "We are deeply saddened over the tragic loss of our Columbus store manager. Our thoughts and deepest sympathies are with our employees' family and friends during this difficult time. The store is closed until further notice, and grief counselors will be available for area employees." But for many, the statement felt too little, too late. Kenya Slaughter, a former Dollar General assistant manager who has become a community organizer, challenging the company on safety issues, put it bluntly. Say her name, Alexis Hill. Say her name. Slaughter spoke about the constant fear that retail workers face. That is absolutely one of the worst fears. As someone who worked at that store for a long time, that was always an issue. Wondering when you come to work, if you were going to make it home. She described an incident where a person entered her store brandishing a machete and locked herself in the break room. Dollar store workers deal with a lot, she said. And she's right. Dollar General has more stores than McDonald's. They're everywhere. And with that ubiquity comes risk. Risk that employees like Alexis Hill face every single shift. Columbus Police Chief Stoney Mathis watched the surveillance footage of Alexis's murder. What he saw disturbed him deeply. We have to assess, are we doing enough to protect the people, he said. To be quite honest, I think that we need to do more. We're going to have to go back and put together a strategic plan to make sure our patrols are walking in and checking in on some of these clerks because, after watching that heinous video, it just makes me think we can do more. Mathis didn't mince words about the killer either. If you commit murder in the city of Columbus and then you shoot 2 of my police officers, we're going to kill you, he said. It was a controversial statement. Some praised him for protecting his officers. Others raised concerns about the violent rhetoric. But one thing was clear. The police chief had seen the video, and he was angry. A GoFundMe was set up by Jonathan Hill to cover his sister's memorial service, burial, travel for next of kin, funeral arrangements, and estate expenses. The community rallied around the family. A balloon release and ceremony was held in Alexis's honor on the Chattahoochee Riverwalk. Family and friends filled the Riverwalk with blue, white, and pink balloons. They released them into the sky, watching them rise like prayers. The funeral was held on Friday, July 3rd, 2026, at 11 a.m. at the Cathedral of Prayer COGIC in Columbus. Interment followed at Park Hill Cemetery. 2 viewings were held the day before. The The community came out in force to say goodbye to a woman taken far too soon. But here's the thing about Alexis Hill's murder. It wasn't an isolated incident. Retail workers across America face violence every single day. Dollar General, in particular, has a troubled history when it comes to workplace safety. In June 2026, the same month Alexis was killed, Dollar General agreed to pay a $12 million fine to settle alleged workplace safety violations. The settlement required the company to implement corporate-wide changes to make employee safety a priority. But for Alexis Hill, those changes came too late. The company has faced scrutiny over its safety record for years. Employees have reported everything from armed robberies to physical assaults to the kind of senseless violence that took Alexis's life. And yet, the stores stay open. The registers keep ringing. The employees keep showing up because they have to, because they need the paycheck, because they're dedicated to their jobs, just like Alexis was. Her death has sparked a conversation, not just in Columbus but across the country, about the safety of retail workers. What protections are in place? What should be in place? How many more people have to die before corporations take workplace violence seriously? Police Chief Mathis put it bluntly, "We need to do more." But the question is, will anyone actually do it? Alexis Hill was a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a friend, a manager, a protector. She was 44 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. She had 3 sons who will never see their mother again, 2 grandchildren who will never know her warmth, a brother who will carry the weight of her loss for the rest of his life. And she died because a man with a criminal history, a man who had been out of prison for exactly 30 days, walked into her store and shot her in the head. The cost of the hamburger buns he was buying? $1.58. The cost of her life? Priceless. The surveillance video captured it all. The crumpled bills, the straightened cash, the step to the side, the gun, the shot, the collapse. Cold-blooded murder, the coroner called it. And he was right. Jerome Willis is dead. He was killed in a shootout with police, and many would say he got what he deserved. But that doesn't bring Alexis back. That doesn't heal her family. That doesn't fill the void left by a woman who was loved by so many. Her brother Jonathan said it best. She can't be replaced. No, she can't. No one can replace Alexis Hill. But we can remember her. We can say her name. We can demand better. For retail workers, for our communities, for everyone who shows up to do their job and deserves to come home safe at the end of the day. Alexis Hill was a victim of senseless violence, but she was also so much more. She was a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a friend, and her story deserves to be told. This has been Crime Autopsy. If you made it this far, drop a comment below. Tell us, what needs to change to protect retail workers? What should Dollar General and other corporations do to keep their employees safe? Subscribe to Crime Autopsy for more deep dives into the cases that shock the nation. Hit that bell so you never miss an episode. And remember, every victim has a story. Every life matters. Every name deserves to be spoken. Say her name. Alexis Hill.